All organizations, big or small, right, have requirements and obviously obligations to their employees, their staffs, and obviously their paying customers and clients, right? So risk can sometimes cause a challenge when we're dealing with employees as well as all our external paying customers. So let's jump in and take a quick look at how we can manage our risk to ensure safety all around. The very first thing that I want to sort of jump into is ensuring that we have our client requirements. So client requirements is our very first part to ensure there's obviously our obligations are met around risk management, especially third party risk management. We have our business, right? So that's the very first component. And within our business, we have employees and obviously external paying customers that are keeping the lights on. And, employees are obviously paid on time. We want to make sure that there's in a safe environment, employee satisfaction, and, obviously care and make sure there's safety and things like that. And then we have our customers as well. So we need to support them through our products are aligned and obviously they're not faulty or inoperable or we're not doing the actual work that we're getting paid to do. And there's one risk area obviously of how we're going to handle that risk, and that's our legal risk. So when we start talking about our client requirements, we need to make sure that our legal risk is one of those areas we need to take into account and factor in. So we need to make sure that we've got legal representation as well, and this can happen sometimes through just write out legal. And this is typically sometimes we can have an internal legal authority within our business, or we can engage with a third party, typically a law firm that we can have on a retainer, and then obviously can come to the table with that legal state of mind with contracts and agreements and audits and telling us what our boundaries are and what we can do business in or not do business in. So that's one area we can have the legal component, and then the other component is obviously insurance. We need to ensure that if someone takes out legal action against us for whatever reason, could be a product, could be, you know, something that we've done wrong or whatever the case may be, well, we want to make sure that obviously the insurance is there so we don't have to get hit with obviously that financial burden that's going to put us out of business. So we can go down that insurance route to support us through, that sort of that area of focus, right? Or that requirement through our obligations around risk management. So when we talk about our client responsibilities, legal plays that vital role. And obviously, there's some points that we've just covered that we can then meet those requirements through that legal, obviously the legal component and through insurance purposes as well. Moving up the ladder here, we've got things like our change management process can obviously help us. So, obviously, every organization wants to lower the risk of outages and downtimes due to changes in that environment. And that's where risk management comes in. And we need a safety net on how we're going to manage our configurations, right? Change is identified, and then we go through that change request is submitted. So, I'm going to put change is identified, and then we go through our change request, which is pretty much submitted. So a change request goes out, it gets submitted. We review those changes or the request ready for approval. So yet not yet affecting anything else, right? So we want to gain that approval. So we want to review the changes and ensure that they're ready and accurate. And then obviously then the approval is given for us to changes for the changes to then go away and happen. Then we'll have that change window where we've scheduled the window to make the changes. Then we go away and make those changes right during that change outage window or that that configuration window of sort. And then we're going to go into test those changes to ensure that they work correctly, that whatever change that we did was the main reason for that requirement of going through that change outage, and make sure that we've tested it and it's obviously working. And then we're going to go away and document our changes in our change management documentation and obviously throughout our process. So change management or changes without proper processes is obviously to prevent that downtime and the outages that affect our ability to meet obviously our customer requirements, but obviously our business requirements as well. So change management is another important part throughout throughout our business life cycle to ensure that you know customers and obviously our internal staff obviously are not affected to downtime and outages or have other business requirement issues, and that's change management. And then finally, we've got staff turnover. And this sometimes is underlooked and sometimes can be a bit of a challenge, right? So imagine we only had maybe one person doing a specific job, and then that person is angry, and then they go to a competitor because they could be paying a bit more. Maybe there's flexibility in working hours. Well, what do we do with this person's job requirements, right? When chances are it may be hard to fill for that role. So maybe it's a challenging role, maybe it's a very specific role. well, we're going to have a hard time to meet our specific business needs and the requirements, right? So if we've got high turnover, sometimes those challenges is managing that staff turnover that we're not going to be able to meet our customer requirements in that nature. So, what are we going to do to prevent obviously that risk or that risk for us to then manage our staff turnover? Well, there's a couple of things that we can do to manage our staff turnover. One is to ensure that we're doing cross training. And that could be, ensuring there's adequate amount of support for our internal staff. In terms of, cross training our staff, we want to have more than one person being able to carry out that job function, right? And then they can step in to momentarily, and I'm just going to say momentarily because, and I'll say mum for short, momentarily because it's not going to be a long-term situation. And I've been in those situations where I've been put into something, either I knew it or I didn't know it, and I had to figure it out. And no one kind of wants to be in that scenario. So when we're going through our cross training, we want to ensure that obviously we've got more than one person that's able to step in for a short period of time and be able to support the business through that component, and obviously wait it out and obviously support the business until a replacement is found. So maybe a high technical role. Then we can have maybe a level two person maybe step back into a level one role to support the business until they find maybe a level one support engineer that they can then bring on, support, train, and then that level two person can go back into his or her normal functioning role for that job requirement. And the other part is temporary replacement. Maybe we have a contract with an agency of, a contracting agency that we can reach out to that has an on-demand access to team members that we can then assist and backfill that gap. And that's quite common. We may have to have an SLA put in place with our contract team that says, well, if someone is either, and this is something that's common, right? They might just say, look, we can guarantee that this person is, for 3 months. If they're not suitable for the role within 3 months, but then we're going to find you a new candidate. And that's obviously through the hiring process. But then you can have an actual temporary agreement with this obviously provider that we're going to utilize to backfill that position. And then they can provide you someone. So you can have maybe an SLA to say, well, we'll need someone if someone, either resigns or moves on. We'll have a service level agreement that says we'll find a replacement within 30 days and ensure that we've got the right, you know, process and obviously the technical understanding if it's a technical role or whatever that requirement may be. We can put in that component to ensure that we've got a temporary employment contract with an agency of such, and then they can lend us a team or a person or a team of people to assist us into backfill that position or backfilling that gap until we've either hired the right person and vice versa. So that's kind of the risk management obligations component in terms of what are our requirements as we're dealing with businesses, as we're dealing with our internal staff. We have a requirement both legally and ethically as well that we're doing the right thing by everyone. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and as always, I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.